Hi everyone, it's M.S.G. Hope you're doing well. And today I'm going to be doing my Cabal of Chaos Detachment review for Chaos Space Marines in 10th edition. So let's get on to it. So, as previously described in the other videos, it's going to be structured the exact same. So I'm just going to cover a brief description of the detachment rule, which is named Empiric Wellspring, an overview of each individual enhancement and stratagem, as well as any highlights like combinations of units or standout units in particular. I'll also then give a brief strength and weaknesses comparison when at the end of the video. So what's good about it, what's bad about it, etc. And then based on the information that I've provided, I will come to an impartial rating at the end and give you an overall ranking as to how I think this detachment matches up. Not only in the actual codex for the internal balance, but also extending to balance as in competitiveness. At any point as well, if you feel like you wish to pause just to view some of the slides, etc., then you are more than welcome to do so. Yeah, but with that said, let's get into it. So the first rule of the Cabal of Chaos is the Empiric Wellspring. The sorcerous powers wielded by a Cabal inevitably draw the eyes of the Dark Gods and flood the battlefield with supernatural energies, further enhancing the warp gifts of their fellow Chaos Space Marines. Each time a unit from your army makes a Dark Pact, select one of the following abilities. Your unit has that ability until the end of the phase. Leaping Warp Flame. While this unit is within 9 inches of one or more Heretic Astartes Psyker models, improve the strength characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in this unit by 1. Monstrous Manifestation. While this unit is within 9 inches of one or more friendly Heretic Astartes Demon Prince or Heretic Astartes Demon Prince with Wings models, improve the AP characteristic of melee weapons equipped by models in this unit by 1. Overall, not too bad. If you're within 9 inches of one or more friendly Psykers, you can get +1 strength to your ranged weapons. So a lot of the stuff like Las Cannons, for example, on your Land Raiders or Havocs, even your Legionaries, go to strength 13, which means you're wounding T12 on 3s instead of 4s, so that +1 to wound is really, really good. Other options include strength 5 bolt guns and bolt pistols, strength 10 melter guns, which is really good actually, because anything toughness 10 is now getting wounded on a 4. And strength 6 heavy bolters and havoc launchers, so our rhinos actually do hit quite hard now, as well as the Land Raiders. The second buff is the Monstrous Manifestation is better though. So if you're within 9 inches of one or more friendly Heretic Astartes Demon Prince variants, so this is both the winged and on foot, you'll get +1 AP to your melee weapons. Increased AP, as I'm sure people are already aware, with Renegade Raiders. That extra AP bringing your chainswords to AP -2. Your your power fists are going to AP -3. Any kind of AP3 is now going to AP4, which is ridiculously good. So you can have a Chaos Lord that's AP -4 if he pops his Transfer Glory, which is really, really good. Corresponding units benefit from their own auras as well, so a Demon Prince will always get the +1 AP in melee at all time, which is good, and the Sorcerers and Psykers will always get the +1 strength from range for their shooting, so that's roughly strength 6 to strength 7, I think it is, which is great into T6, so Death Guard Plague Marines, for example, with T6, quite a prominent thing in the meta at the moment. You'll be able to wound them on 3s, which is really good. You have to Dark Pact to benefit from the rule, so it kind of is a limitation, but it's a good limitation because most of the time you are going to be Dark Pacting anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't call it necessarily a weakness, but you can risk getting D3 mortal wounds done to you, so there is the that it's still technically a weakness. That being said, though, you still get 2 extra abilities of the detachment rule, even if you fail the Dark Pact test. So, unlike Pact-bound Zealots, you don't get the sustained hits or lethal hits on a 5-up from range or in melee. You will always get the buffs, even if you fail the Dark Pact, which is nice. Another obvious weakness is that you need to be within 9 inches of your Demon Princes or Psykers, meaning you don't get to benefit from the detachment rule otherwise. So, it's a very position-based one. First up, we have the first enhancement, which is Touched by the Warp. Heretic Astartes model only, excluding Khorne models. The bearer gains a Psyker keyword. I've given this an 8 out of 10 because it costs 10 points. It's good on a Lord, best on a Demon Prince, so for 10 points you can make a Lord into a Psyker, which means that the unit they're leading will always benefit from the detachment rule. However, I believe that giving a Demon Prince a Psyker keyword is ideal, as normally they don't have the keyword and they're a lot more durable. Obviously, the problem is excluding Khorne models, so you don't get any Lord of Skulls, any Demon Prince of Khorne you don't get, which is that's a big no-no now. because they are a very useful unit. The Demon Prince of Khorne, especially in this detachment, oddly enough. Cheap, so it's 10 points, so you're probably going to fit that in your list if you can. If it were more expensive, it'd drastically go down, but either way, it's still really good at 8 out of 10. Synergizes well with the aforementioned Demon Princes, so the Demon Prince itself doesn't have to be a Psyker. You could just have to be next to the Demon Prince, or be the Demon Prince itself to get the extra AP in melee. Demon Princes are also wanting to be in close quarters, so your nearby units that are also probably going to be in close quarters too. Will probably give them a lone operative rule as well if they're within 3 inches, but they will also benefit because the 9-inch aura is actually pretty big. You're going to get quite a lot of people in that aura if you try and like somewhat castle your units, but again, the obvious weakness is that you can just, if your opponent spaces well and keeps your Demon Princes distracted, then you don't really get the benefit. And if you're building a shooting list, you can use it on a Warpsmith. So obviously you get the Psychic keyword on a Warpsmith. If you are within 9 inches of the Warpsmith, you get the +1 strength to your shooting, so you can have Forge Fiends, Obliterators if you feel like you need to. I don't think Obliterators actually benefit from that. Like Predators, Forge Fiends, Predators, Vindicators as well, they benefit. But and you also get the +1 to hit, which is really, really good too. So that extra strength is very nice, the strength 11 on the Forge Fiends. But next up we do have the Eyes of Zadesh. Heretic Astartes model only. Models in the bearer's unit have the Scout 6-inch ability. This is 25 points, and I've given it a 10 out of 10. This is an auto-include. Ideal target for this enhancement, in my opinion, after doing my research, is the Master of Possessions. Or possession rather, leading a unit of 10 possessed. Being able to give possessed unit a Scout 6-inch on top of the +1 advance and charge is exceptional. They're already really, really quick. And you also get access to advance and charge for infantry in this detachment with the Unholy Haste stratagem. A bit of a spoiler there, but it makes possessed a borderline unignorable unit which you can easily get into combat with. If you go second, you can redeploy your scout unit to be behind cover instead if you feel like that's more appropriate. And if you're first, you can deploy aggressively. So it's straightforward. If you're first, deploy aggressively. Obviously, you can get countered by Infiltrator. So if your opponent has some, decent infiltration placements, they can keep you in your spawn and your deployment zone a lot more frequently. So that little extra go turn and that extra movement they might have is rendered null. In addition, possessed are naturally very fast. I think they're 8-inch movement. So you've got roughly, with the advance and charge, that nearly 25-inch threat range on average, which is pretty good. Probably a bit shorter because you might roll low. It is expensive, so it's 25 points, but it's well worth it. Like I said, it's an auto-include. Given a fast-moving unit, the ability to get an extra 6-inch movement on top of the already insane movement is really, really good. You should make room for it in your list, in my opinion. This is one of the best, if not the best, enhancements it is the best enhancement in this detachment. You can also put it on a Chaos Lord. So if you put this on a Chaos Lord and give it to a unit of Chosen, you can then jump the Chosen and the Lord and the Rhino, and as a result of that, you can then give the Rhino 6-inch, and then move the Rhino forward 6 inches, which is really, really good. Next up, we have Mindblade. This is a 25-point enhancement, a Psycho model only. Melee weapons equipped by models in the bearer's unit will have the Lance ability. I've given this a 6 out of 10, slightly above average. It's nice to have on a unit of middling strength weaponry, so like Chosen or Terminators. So you get +1 to wound with strength 5 or strength 8, meaning anything within that bracket is usually being wounded on a 2 or a 3 if it's in that toughness bracket, which is really, really good. Especially on Chosen, because the biggest thing that they can pull out is obviously they're very similar to Terminators in the melee aspect, because they only have accursed weapons and Power Fist / Chain Fist. Obviously, the Chain Fists belong with Terminators. They're also very, very good at dealing damage in combat, so getting +1 to wound in combat for a Chosen unit or a Terminator unit is just really, really nice. Probably best used on a Sorcerer in Terminator armor, so as I've mentioned here, for the unit of Terminators attached to him, you will get Death Hex, so you can increase the AP against the unit you've targeted by 1, which is really good. That just applies to shooting and melee, and it doesn't have to be the unit. So if you mark a unit, everything in your army gets extra AP against it, which is really nice. Reroll all hits in shooting and melee when you dart packed. So obviously you will have to do 2 dart packs to get the full rerolls to hit in shooting and in melee because it's 2 separate occasions. But you do get that as part of the Terminator datasheet ability anyway. You get to reroll advance and charge rolls for the unit because the sorcerer does allow that for his unit and himself, and +1 to range weaponry, strength to range weaponry due to the Empiric Wellspring. So your combi bolters are going to have 2 to 4 shots at strength 5 -1 damage, potentially -2 depending on if you're death hexing. With lethal or sustained hits. Heavy flamers, so if you bring a unit of 10, you get 2 heavy flamers at strength 6 -2 AP, that would go up to AP -3, with the death hex as well. I think it should do. Just let me double check. Because with death hex it would be... I think the heavy flamers... Oh, it ignores cover, ignore me. Yeah, so strength 6 -2, ignores cover, 1 damage each, which is very nice. And Reaper auto cannons are now going to be strength 8 -2 AP, 1 damage, both with sustained and lethals, because the Reaper auto cannon does have sustained hits in the in the profile, so you don't need to dart pack for sustained. You can do both, which is very, very helpful, especially because you've got the dev wounds and the decent AP. Your melee is going to be just diabolically good, so strength 5 -3 AP if you're near a Demon Prince, 1 damage of curse weapons, and strength 8 -3 AP, 2 damage, power fists and chain fists. All of them have sustained and lethal hits if you sustained and lethal hits if you decide to dart pact as well. But obviously that's going to be if you're near a Demon Prince. MOP, the Master of Possession, is also a great chassis for the enhancement if you want to run it on Chosen or Possessed. So Chosen and Possessed with +1 to wound is nasty, especially due to how quick units both units are. Particularly the Chosen, obviously, because they have advance and charge, or advance shoot and charge, fall back, shoot, charge. They're just an incredibly good unit to have, and the Master of Possessions helps with the shooting and is one of the very few decent... Let's put it this way, he's the best sorcerer model that can lead a unit of Chosen, because the regular sorcerer is just trash, but that's by the by. Finally, we have the Infernal Avatar. This is 20 points. It's Heretic Astartes Demon Prince variants, so both of them, the on foot or the one with wings. Improve the strength of melee weapons equipped by the bearer by 2, and improve AP by 1. So that'll stack as well, so that'll go to, it'll be technically AP 2, because you are obviously going to benefit from your melee, because it's a Demon Prince. So if you'll have 6 attacks, sustained all lethal hits at strength 10, which is a good break point, AP -4, and 3 damage a hit. On top of the mortal wounds with the wings, obviously, because when you charge in, you get demonic destruction, which is very good. You'll be hitting very hard. Anything without a 2-up armor save is going to straight up die when you get charged by the Demon Prince, which is really, really helpful. Demon Prince of Khorne are ideal for this, though, as you'll see in the later list. While it's great on the other demonic allegiances, it's best on a Demon Prince of Khorne, specifically because you go to strength 12. So any kind of T9, T10 vehicle is just going to get wounded on 3s, and any kind of tough chassis that's T12 is now getting wounded on 4s, obviously with the AP -4 and 3 damage flat. Just ridiculously good. It's very, very hard hitting. Can be countered somewhat by invulnerable saves, so AP4 is great, but usually anything with a 2-up or 4-up, so like a Terminator, for example, anything beyond that, they don't really care about AP2 or AP3. Primarily AP3 is the good one, though, because you obviously get, if you're a 2-up armor save 4-up invul unit and you get AP -2, you might be able to pop Armor of Contempt with AP3. Even if you do pop Armor of Contempt, you're still going to be at a 4-up invul anyway, because it's technically AP -2. Either way, though, you're still going to have the ability to get 3 damage flat per hit, which means that any time that you're attacking a 3-wound model, if they fail the save, they will die, and the advantage still lies with you, but your opponent can try and mitigate it, so you've still got that advantage when you're dealing with people. And finally, it's good on a regular Demon Prince. I believe the Demon Prince has the ability to re-roll a hit or a wound roll, base kit on his datasheet, so it's okay. Like, that's nice, because extra hit, potentially convert it into a 6 and get an extra hit or a sustained. If you're wanting support-oriented Demon Princes to hit harder, then that's definitely something you can consider being brought on them, because your Demon Prince on foot is meant to be with your infantry. The 3-inch lone operative ability is just really helpful as well for that. I think it's better on a winged demon prince, but you can still, you could switch it up, like, genuinely. It's at any point you're more than happy to, switch it up. First up, we have for the stratagems, Baleful Blessing. Any phase just after a Heretic Astartes unit from your army has had a mortal wound allocated to it. Your Heretic Astartes unit, until the end of the phase, models in your unit have a 5-up feel no pain against mortal wounds. I've given this a 4 out of 10. A reactive 5-up feel no pain against mortal wounds, so anytime you're on the receiving end of them, you can use it for a command point. It can help you in certain scenarios, but it is very, very niche. The issue is that after you've received your mortal wounds, which is a bit bad. So if it was something like I mentioned here with the 5-up feel no pain against shooting in Felhammer Siege Host, which is really, really good because it applies to any damage, not specifically mortal wounds, but because it's against them in particular, after you've had them allocated to you, it's very strange. It just feels like a very weird limitation, because the 5-up feel no pain, as mentioned in the Felhammer Siege Host video, is really, really, really good. With the weakness obviously being it's at shooting, you can't do it in melee. This is very, very helpful in 2 scenarios that I can think of, and they're all do you really want to spend a command point for that? But if you for example, if your opponent is I don't know, Forge Fiend, and they get 4 dev wounds through, then maybe this is good. But other than that, probably not. It's not specific to infantry or vehicles though, which is good. So you can use it on your vehicles. You don't have to use it on infantry. So if you get, like I said earlier, a lot of dev wounds come through, most of the time the tanks don't really have anything to deal with, mortal wounds. So it's usually a good way to deal with that. But this gives you some kind of protection, which is it's okay. It's nice to have. Usually good on bigger units. So 10-man unit of Chosen, Terminators, a Vindicator, or even your Demon Prince. You want to keep your Demon Princes alive. Most of the time, your opponent's going to just try and shoot them off the board, or get a specific melee unit that hits very hard to deal with them. But more often than not, mortal wounds are usually the best way to deal with hard to kill infantry, especially hard to kill monsters, especially if they're 2-up, 4-up. So, and plus, let's say if you're nearly dead and you want to use a Dark Pact and you fail and you take mortal wounds, then you can obviously use a 5-up feel no pain to potentially save yourself. Next up, we have Soul Seekers. So it's a shooting phase strat. 1 Heretic Astartes unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot. Ranged weapons equipped by models in the unit have ignores cover. I've given this a 6 out of 10. It's slightly above average. Soul Seekers is okay. It's okay. So ignores cover, increases the damage from a lot of your vehicles because it's not specific to infantry or vehicles. It's any Heretic Astartes unit. Good into power armor. So for example, Space Marines, anything with a 2-up or a 3-up armor save is going to really hate you shooting at them. So you get AP -3 to AP -2. Forge Fiend, let's say you're shooting into a unit on an objective, they pop Armor of Contempt, that brings them to AP -2. Normally it'd bring it to AP -1 because you get Armor of Contempt and the cover benefit, so now they're AP -2. So those 2-ups are now going to a 4-up and the 3-ups going to a 5-up, so you're still going to get a lot of damage through, which otherwise you would not have got. Anything with a 4-up armor save is just going to die, pretty much. On average, it's just not going to have a good time. Obliterators love this, so do Forge Fiends, so you get AP -3 on your Focus Malice profile, which is the heavy hitting one. The Strength 12 -4, I think it is, or -3, 4 damage flat. I'm probably getting that wrong. And Forge Fiends Ectoplasma Cannons being AP -3 as well. It's a solid break point for a majority of units. Ignoring cover from the Obliterators also applies to their indirect fire, which is really good, so you don't have to worry about them getting +1 to the save. So majority of the time, if you're lowering your opponent's save, on average, mathematically, you are getting more damage through. The only problem is we do have some really good shooting that doesn't require, this stratagem use. So, for example, Rubric Marines, they've got the Wart Flamers, Sonic Blasters from the Noise Marines, and the Blastmasters too. So if you want to save a command point, you could bring 1 unit of each or either. Either way, it's not to be understated how effective it can be on the aforementioned Obliterators and Forge Fiends, because they're just really, really they really like this. Even a Vindicator likes this too. Third, in no particular order, obviously, is No Rest in Death. Your movement phase, one Heretic Astartes unit that is within uh, 9 inches of a Heretic Astartes Psyker, Demon Prince, or Demon Prince with wings. One model from your unit regains up to D3 plus 1 lost wounds, and if your unit has the battle line keyword, you can return up to D3 models, excluding characters, to your unit with a full wounds remaining instead. So it works both on both units, so you'll also get the benefit of the detachment rule. So, for example, Demon Princes and Psychers within 9 inches can do this for a command point. So not only will you be given that unit plus 1 strength in shooting if it's a Psyker, you'll also be given it extra AP in melee. So, for example, if you've got a unit, I don't know, of legionaries, let's say, and you lose, 3 or 4, then there's just a lord and a single legionary, but you need the extra legionaries with the heavy melee weapons to come back to hit a unit. Demon Prince can move up, use this, get the unit back on the feet, and then pretty much just hold on, one Heretic Astartes unit from. Yes, you could potentially use this for free if you've got the Lord, because it's the unit, it's not the Demon Prince. The Demon Prince just has to be nearby, or a Psyker needs to be nearby, and most of the time that's going to be a thing, because the majority of the stuff you're going to be bringing does have Psyker. You can also use it on yourself as well. So, for example, if you have Demon Prince and it wants to heal a bit, you can use this to get D3 plus 1 lost wounds. Also works on your Warp Smiths, as I mentioned at the bottom. So, for example, if you use this and give him the Touch by the Warp enhancement to make him a Psyker, you can sit next to a Forge Fiend, and then you can get 2d3 plus 1 wounds back on the Forge Fiend or a Vindicator or something, which is very, very helpful. That's a lot of damage your opponent's going to need to chew through. If your opponent usually is smart, they will focus down your vehicles if possible, mainly because they've just got no other choice. It's a lot easier to focus down your shooting, because then that way, once that's gone, that's gone. This keeps them alive for a lot longer. It's also great on Plague Marines and Rubik Marines. So Rubik Marines also have access to the Aspiring Sorcerer, so that gives them the Psyker keyword most of the time, unless the Sorcerer gets precisioned out. But even then, it's not a character, so it doesn't count. Plague Marines are also just really tough to shift on average, so you get D3, T6, 3 up armor, 2 wound models, and while being near them, they obviously get -1 leadership to anybody who is nearby. They do have 2 OC, which is really good too, so you can just slap them on an objective, contest the mid board, and pretty much just, potentially take an objective back. Overall, though, I've given it a 5 out of 10. It's pretty average. Next, we have Unholy Haste. Charge phase, 1 Heretic Astartes infantry unit from your army that has not been selected to charge that phase. Until the end of the phase, your unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced. So I've given this a 7 out of 10, just giving it good. So advance and charge on infantry is great, so Lord and Legionaries get it for free if you've not used a stratagem that turn. Terminators and Sorcerer and Terminator armor have a much more reliable extended threat range now. Sadly, it doesn't matter to Chosen, though, because they don't really care, because they've already got that in their an improved version, actually, in their base kit datasheet ability. Can't be used on Demon Princes because it specifically mentions infantry, which is their best recipient for advance and charge. So the infantry limitation means that they're not able to access it, which is saddening, I'm not going to lie. The reason as to why the Emperor's Children Demon Prince is so good, among other things, is because they have access to advance and charge on a very fast moving unit, which can deal mortal wounds. If the Chaos Space Marine Demon Prince could use this, even for a command point, it would be drastically increasing the viability of the detachment, as most of your melee buffs are oriented around having your Demon Princes within 9 inches. So when you're having that big go turn, you've got the ability to just run in, get the Demon Prince where he needs to be in the middle of everything, and then you all charge your units in, and boom, you get the extra AP because you're probably going to be within 9 inches of him. Doesn't allow advanced shoot and charge, so it's objectively weaker than Torpify and Refrain in Pact-Bound Zealots. As Marcus Lanesh Terminator unit, for example, with a Sorcerer in Terminator armor, has advanced shoot and charge with rerolls to charge and advance. Detachment is primarily focused around buffing your shooting nearby Psychers. So adding advance and shoot on an okay-ish unit, so like a Terminator brick, is nice, but it's probably going to be best used on something like an Obliterator, for example, because they're going to be your very slow, lumbering 4-inch move. You want to make it so they can advance out of cover after they've done the indirect, and then get into a better position and shoot, which is very helpful. But unfortunately, Oh wait, ignore me. Never mind. It does work on sorry, you can advance and charge on obliterators, but you can't advance and shoot on them, which is unfortunate. But if they made that little tweak, I think it would be like an 8 out of 10. But obliterators in general, they they're not very helpful in this detachment, unfortunately. But either way. Next up, we have Mutation's Curse. So your shooting phase, one Heretic Astartes Psyker unit from your army. Select one visible enemy unit within 12 inches of your unit and roll 1d6. On a 1, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 2 or a 4, that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 5 or a 6, that enemy unit suffers 2d3 mortal wounds. I've given this a 6 out of 10. This is slightly above average. Great on Rubric Marines, as they have a sorcerer which comes with a Psyker keyword, as I mentioned earlier. Most of the time, though, you're going to want to bring a unit of 5 with Warp Flamers. That way you can act as a good Overwatch threat and as a deterrent, as well as throw out some mortal wounds. On average, you'll be getting between D3, getting the D3 on average, but you will get, sometimes you'll get a 1, obviously, but sometimes you'll get a 2d3, so that's between 2 to 6 mortal wounds for a command point. It's just a a much better version of the grenade stratagem. Mortal wounds are obviously, incredibly valuable. So unless you're throwing them into something with a feel no pain, most of the time you're just going to get the damage through. So, for example, a unit of Rubric Marines being able to do potentially 3 to 6 mortal wounds against a a vehicle like a Land Raider, for example, is very, very nice. Can be used with the grenade stratagem as well. So it's a Heretic Astartes Psyker unit. So you could use this on a Lord, which is what I mentioned earlier, because the Lord, it says a Psyker unit, not a model, unfortunately. So potentially, if you have, for example, I don't know, another Legionaries unit nearby, you can throw grenades, and then obviously you can use this on top of that. I will have to check the wording for that because it's Psyker unit. I thought it was just a Heretic Astartes Psyker, so you can probably just ignore that. But either way, it's still a 6 out of 10. I mean, potentially dealing D3 to 2d3 mortal wounds on average for a command point, or potentially for free if you've got Touched by the Warp, is just really, really nice. And last but not least, we have Shroud of Chaos. One Heretic Astartes unit, one Heretic Astartes Psyker, Demon Prince variant, so you can use both on the foot and Demon Prince with wings as well. At the start of your opponent's shooting phase until the end of the phase, your unit has the following ability: Shroud of Chaos, an aura. Models in friendly Heretic Astartes units within 6 inches of this unit have a stealth ability. So, Psyker or a Demon Prince can now grant a 6-inch aura of -1 to hit from ranged attacks. Potentially very good. So seeing as he already gets low on operative on the Demon Prince on foot, when he's within 3 inches of a nearby Heretic Astartes infantry, you also get the benefit of cover. So not only do you get +1 to save, you also get -1 to be hit, which is very, very nice. That can massively increase your durability. The -1 to hit may not matter in certain circumstances, so like Oath of Moment, ignoring modifiers, or some other form of rerolls to hit. But against units which hit on a 4 or a 5, which normally don't have access to rerolls, you can pretty much guarantee that they're going to miss a majority of those shots. And obviously, if they do get them through, you do get the benefit of cover as well, which is nice. If you have a unit of 10 Terminators with a Sorcerer in Terminator armor attached, you can provide a very large AoE bubble. Because it's the unit, not the model, which is great. You can pretty much just fan them out, and then any kind of unit within 6 inches of the brick in the center, so like I said here, in the mid-board, gets -1 to hit, which is really, really good. Also works on vehicles, so now your fire support units, which should be behind the center of your board. So, for example, the brick in the front, and obviously you've got the fire support behind, covering the lanes, in case any unit attempts to charge you. Gets -1 to hit, so instead of having to pop smoke, you can do this and grant it to potentially more than one vehicle, which is really, really good. It's one of those things where it's nice to have it if you need it, but you're not going to use it that often either way. It's still a 4 out of 10. Next up, we have standout units and combos. So we've got the Master of Possessions with the Eye of Zadesh and 10 Possessed or Bile with 10 Chosen. So mentioned earlier in the enhancement review, but this needs to be said, that the combo is ridiculously good. While it's expensive at 325 points at the moment, it's definitely worth bringing due to the ludicrous amount of damage you will be throwing out. And Master of Possessions acts as a very good ranged precision. So, for example, you get +1 to hit and wound from using the sacrificial dagger, so you will be taking a mortal wound for that. But you'll be getting 2 shots at strength 7, +1 to strength, because it's normally strength 6, -3 AP, 3 damage flat with dev wounds and anti-psychic 2 up. So any kind of psychic character, you're just going to literally delete them unless they've got a mortal wound deterrent, so like a feel no pain, for example. Very reliably kill any psychic, like I said there. Obviously, the +1 to wound means you're going to be wounding them majority of the time on 2s, because it's very rare that they have any kind of super tough psychic characters. In melee, you'll also get the extra AP 1 from the Empiric Wellspring if you're nearby a Demon Prince, so meaning your possessed are now going to be throwing 4 attacks each, strength 5, -2, 2 damage flat, with sustained and lethal hits, and dev wounds the first time that you Dark Pact. Extra AP forces a lot of units with a 2-up armor save to the 4-up invul if they've got one, which is always helpful, and those dev wounds can really help chew through a lot of damage, which you otherwise might not have got. Excuse me, I'm just about to sneeze. Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, so alternatively, if you're not wanting to run Possessed, you can choose to run Bile instead with 10 Chosen. So while they aren't as fast, don't have access to dev wounds, and are a more expensive unit overall, I think everybody can agree that most of the melee in the Chosen is on average better. So you can get AP -3 instead of AP -2, because obviously Possessed are AP 1, Chosen on average are AP 2. They've got some okay shooting as well. They can advance, fall back, shoot, and charge without needing to spend any command points. And Bile obviously gives them that +1 strength and +1 toughness, so you get strength 6, -2 to -3 AP, 1 damage on your accursed weapons from a T5 3 wound infantry unit, which is very, very nice. I would probably bring the Chosen with Bile, as they're a lot more versatile. No pun intended. Oh, I didn't mean to rhyme then, sorry. But despite the majority of their weaponry being 1 damage, minus the Power Fist, any kind of like -1 damage against Possessed really ruins them. Like, they will struggle. But against Chosen, you don't really give a fuck because it's 1 damage anyway. If you want to bring the Possessed, though, like I said, they will chew through a lot of stuff, and they will reliably kill quite a lot of things that the Chosen would otherwise struggle to get into. Mainly because of the dev wounds, though. That's the carry in, and obviously you've got the shooting from the Master of Possessions, which can, if you spike on that, then you will. Next up, we have the Nemesis Claw. So the Nemesis Claw are an often overlooked unit, despite their incredible utility and surprisingly good melee output. But they do shine really well here. Seeing as they already have the Psychic keyword, they'll always be benefiting from both the detachment rules, and when they're in combat, if they're nearby the Demon Prince, they'll be benefiting from the other one. I should have reworded that. They'll be benefiting from the +1 to, their strength from shooting, which you're not really going to be using anyway because it's a melee unit. But being next to a Demon Prince, obviously, you're going to be in combat. They should be nearby. You get extra AP on your melee weaponry, which is nice. And if they're within engagement range of a unit, or it doesn't specify a unit, it's any unit they're in engagement range with, unless they're a vehicle or a monster, they're not able to use stratagems. So because they have the Psychic keyword too, because the guy with the Voice Eater, I think, has a Psychic keyword, they give the 9-inch aura out for nearby shooting units. So for example, if you've got something that's close quarters and you've got a Forge Fiend supporting them or something like that, or Obliterators that are nearby, you get the +1 to shooting on the strength, which is really nice. While you can run them solo, which is something I would advise doing, if you feel it appropriate, you can attach them to any leader that the Legionaries can have. So, for example, a Lord can be attached to a Master of Executions, etc. They act as a substitute for Legionaries, which is, again, it's up to you. I'd personally bring Legionaries, though, on average. But in this stratagem, this detachment, though, you probably want to bring a unit of these. So the Lord obviously gives the -1 to command point cost for stratagems. Great melee damage on top of that. That's probably your best choice. Master of Executions provides great melee damage and precision to snipe any characters for command point regeneration. And Master of Possessions can be attached to the unit too for the +1 to advance and charge rolls, and offer some good anti-character shooting. But most of the time, you're going to be wanting to use the Lord, simply just due to the utility from the command points. I'd advise bringing at least a unit of 5. Being able to shut off stratagem use is absolutely massive. granting that extra psychic buff as well is really, really helpful. So you can use the because they have a psychic keyword, you can attach the Lord to them, and they can use the Chaos strat that I mentioned earlier, the one with the potentially to do D3 to 2d3 mortal wounds, which is nice. They also get +1 to hit if you're fighting a unit below starting strengths, which is nice, so you're hitting on 2s, and +1 to wound if they're below half strength, which is very, very nice as well. Next up, we have Forge Fiends and Obliterators. So Forge Fiends are the particular standout here, as they'll be bumped up to Strength 11, which is great. Strength 10's fine most of the time, but Strength 11 means you're getting +1 to wound against Toughness 10, which covers a lot of units in the game. Obliterators are also getting +1 strength, which means you're now going from Strength 5 to Strength 6 for your regular, like, chaff killing profile. Strength 8 to Strength 9, so Strength 9 -2, 2 damage a hit, which is really good. And Strength 13 for the heavy profile, which is very nice. That's the particular standout ones, the units like Mortarion, Land Raiders, Great and Clean ones, etc. You get +1 to wound, so you're wounding on 3s instead of 4s, which is huge, especially with Obliterators, given how swingy they can be. Next we have Rubric Marines. So the Aspiring Sorcerer leader is a Psyker, so you're able to act as like a mini buffing checkpoint across the battlefield. So if you're in the mid-board or on an objective and you've got a unit that wants to support them, so let's say you've got a melee threat of, I don't know, Custodes, and you want to bring a Forge Fiend or a Vindicator nearby just so they can shoot at them and give them that +1 strength. That'd really be a very nice thing to have. In addition as well, they also give the unit the +1 strength because they're a Psyker, so you get, like I've said here, 4 to 5 D6 shots at strength 5, -2, 1 damage, ignores cover. That's stacking with the extra AP from a Death Hex from a Terminator Sorcerer. So, like I said, 4 to 5 D6 shots at strength 5, -2 AP, 1 damage, ignoring cover is ridiculously good for 100 points. Obviously, you know, the Sorcerer adds to that, but let's put it this way, if anything that gets hit by that is going to be taking at least a couple of wounds of damage. But yeah. And finally, we have Demon Princes, so not surprising, given they are the biggest part of the detachment rule, primarily because you want to get that extra AP. You can also bring one with a Mark and Nurgle if you want, for the extra toughness, so that's T10 on the winged and T11 for the one on foot. It's a great break point, so any kind of strength 9 and strength 10 weaponry will now be -1 to wound. Alternatively, if you want to bring Marcus Lanesh to give him +2 inches movement, so 14-inch move and 10-inch move, so 14 for the wing, 10-inch, for the regular on-foot Demon Prince, you can do that too, so the movement opportunities are really, really strong. They're also great in melee too, so like I've said here, strength 8, -3 AP, 3 damage flat, can push through that damage that might have not gone through. Predominantly though, you want to bring 2 on average, so I bring 1 on foot and 1 with wings, just for the variety, so you get that fast missile threat, which can just run into something and probably kill it, and another 1 on foot supporting your infantry's damage. Both of them you're going to run Mark of Khorne though. It depends on the game, but most of the time Mark of Khorne is like the best choice. So strengths, we've got +1 strength in shooting for units like Havocs, Forge Fiends and Obliterators, grants them +1 to wound. So as mentioned at the start of the video, +1 strength when you're shooting at strength 12 means you're wounding T12 models on 3s as opposed to 4s. It's legitimately massive, like, especially at that point, you do get a lot of damage. So any kind of like low quantity, high damage shots can, you know, difference between a 3 and a 4 is between, you know, D6 +1 to 4 damage to 6 damage per shot, which is just, that's genuinely the difference between killing and not killing something. Increase of AP and 1 in melee is incredibly potent, so -2 AP on Possessed, 2 AP Chainswords and 3 AP heavy melee weaponry on Legionaries, -3 AP Demon Princes, -4 Demon Hammers on the Lord if they pop their, you know, chance for glory. Counters Armor of Contempt, so pesky Marines are going to love to pop AOC every time you shoot or melee them, are going to either be forced to burn the resources against you, or just get absolutely filled in by the sheer amount of damage you're putting out. While it's not relevant in every circumstance, especially if you're going into a lot of 4-up invulns, so like Custodes, for example, it's more often than not great to have in a vast majority of circumstances, especially in melee for the, you know, like Knights, for example, extra AP. Most of them are, what, 3-up armor, 2-up armor? Most of them are 3-up, so you're going to be needing AP 3, AP 4 just goes straight through and you can pretty much reliably kill a Knight. It's a jack of all trades Detachment 2, so a lot of units can be used. So a Cursed Cultist and Dark Commune, that's just a standard one. You also have Demon Princes, Terminators, Chosen, Master of Possessions, Sorcerers, and Terminator armor. Uh, all have something of which they can be brought to the table and offer a unique way of playing. Next, we have the weaknesses. So you need to be within 9 inches of a Demon Prince model or a Psyker to get the benefits from the detachment rule. Most of the time, you're not going to be stood nearby Demon Princes unless you're positioned well, and your opponent can quite easily counter that by just moving them out of the way. Like feeding them some crappy unit to move block it, especially if it's the one on foot, you don't get the fly keyword, whereas the one with wings usually does, so you can somewhat, avoid that. You kind of want to put the one on foot next to your infantry, but the problem is you want your infantry in transports, so you're going to have to advance and just keep these guys, bunny hopping from cover to cover. Most of the Psyker units are just unremarkable as well, so this would be remedied if the Balefire Tome in the Legionaries gave them access to the Psyker keyword, because then that way you would have a absolute metric boatload of shooting as well as melee buffs, because each individual legionary unit would have a Balefire Tome if that was possible. I can guarantee you that would be like the meta for this detachment, and you would probably see quite a lot of it. You get like really bad stuff, so like sorcerers, for example, middle of the road, so Master of Possessions, or usable but unremarkable, so Nemesis Claw and sorcerers in Terminator armor. Your opponent is going to have a field day with your army as well if any other weapons have anti-psyker, so this is more of a matchup issue, but it's definitely a big issue when you're encountering it. A majority of your army won't be psychers, but a very few linchpin units which you'll need to keep alive will be, and so you'll need to keep them very well positioned, which can be difficult. And finally, well, the last two, Demon Princes just aren't very good, unfortunately. But this detachment is Master of None, so it feels very weird to play. So you can run a lot of stuff, but there's nothing in particular that goes, yeah, this is a standout. So, like for example, you get the Demon Prince buff, which is the main thing you want, being within 9 inches. So you're going to have to position them in a way that's both nearby your units and in combat with the enemy. If your enemy is spread out, then they might die in melee to your Demon Prince, but they'll also be denying your army a crucial buffing piece. And as I mentioned literally about 10 seconds ago, Demon Princes are just not very good at the minute. So speaking as an Emperor's Children player, I think it's very unfair for me to compare Demon Princes given how strong the winged Emperor's Children Demon Prince is. But in comparison to even other god-specific traitor legions, the Chaos Space Marine Demon Prince is, and both of them actually, suffer from just being underwhelming, which is sad. The wing variant is better due to the damage and the maneuverability and the mortals on charge, but it don't have access to advance and charge due to the stratagem gimping them, which is just not great, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. So here's a list idea if anyone's interested in running the detachment. We've brought 2 Chaos Lords. One of them's getting brought with the Chosen, the 10-man Chosen unit, and another one's getting brought with a 5-man Nemesis Claw unit. We're also bringing a Rhino, because we're going to put one of the Lords with the Chosen in the Rhino and just move them up to the mid-board, and then hopefully grab the Nemesis Claw and the other Lord and put them in that as well. So we have the Heretic Astartes Demon Prince on foot with the no enhancements, so he's just going to have the Demonic Allegiance of Khorne. And we have a Winged Demon Prince that has the Infernal Avatar enhancement, which brings him to Strength 12 and AP -4, which is very, very nice. We have a Master of Possessions with the Eye of Zadesh, like I mentioned earlier. That's going to be brought with the 10-man Possessed unit. And we have a Warp Smith as well for the final one with the enhancement Touched by the Warp. This in particular is good because we're going to be bringing quite a lot of shooting. So we've got, other than obviously the regular cultist mob, we've just got for shooting especially, a Venom Crawler and 2 Forge Fiends. You could replace the Venom Crawler with a Nemesis Claw or vice versa and then take the Lord out, but the way I see it, if you're taking the Nemesis Claw out, you can take the Lord out and replace it with something like a Vindicator, which will give you an extra 15 points to play with, and then put an enhancement on, a different character. But yeah, we also have the 2 Forge Fiends with the plasma cannon, ectoplasma cannons, and a Venom Crawler with the Excruciator cannons. And finally, we have the Rubric Marine Squad. So they are going to be, close range support, mainly dealing with Overwatch threats and just being a bubble of, if you come near me, we're going to still do a lot of damage to you. For 100 points, especially because they've got the psychic keyword too, I think they're actually pretty useful. Overall, I would give this detachment a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. So it's very weird. So the detachment is probably the most middle of the road. So it's literally just a jack of all trades, focused primarily around psychers and demon princes. So you can have a lot of weird and wacky ideas which could pay off if played by a good player. I think this detachment, it limits itself because it's not specialized. So like I'll mention that in a second, but while you can get some decent damage and play from this, it's better suited to casual games in my opinion. It's very unlikely this will ever be a competitive detachment unless some changes are made. I don't know what changes would be made yet, but the ones I've came in particular is it just buffs psychic units and just make them better. It's still fun to play though, but just keep in mind this detachment doesn't really do anything. You are going to win games. Like I said, it's a jack of all trades. It's not outright useless. So despite having good combos, you've still not got anything that's super specialized or like super standout where it's like, yeah, you're bringing this every single game. Like for example, Creations of Bile, 10-man chosen, like that's the standout unit for the Creations of Bile. Packbound has got more variety in the list building, like I've said here. Really good stratagem support too. Renegade Raiders, you do have the movement and assault on your guns, so you can advance and shoot, which is really helpful. And you also have, Veterans of the Long War to some extent, which in my opinion, this is like a weaker psychic-oriented version of Veterans of the Long War. So if I had a choice between picking this and picking Veterans of the Long War, I would probably pick Veterans, simply due to the fact that Veterans is very, very, I don't want to say basic because it has a very high skill ceiling actually, but it's a lot more reliable than being, oh, you have to be next to a Psyker, you have to be next to a Demon Prince. It's just, you get one target, you get 4 rerolls to hit against that target, and there's loads of other ways to get, fights first or other shenanigans and stuff like that. But again, Veterans, let's put it this way, on average, if you have a middling skilled player playing this detachment, or playing Veterans of the Long War, the person who's playing Veterans of the Long War is going to have a lot more wins under the belt than this. And the reason why I say that is because if you go into a mirror matchup, for example, let's say you're playing this detachment against someone with veterans, all I would do if I was the veterans player would just put Oath of Moment on your Demon Princes or your Forge Fiends, because I know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to sit back, you're going to try and shoot me from a mile away. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm going to advance forward one turn and then just nuke you. You're shooting out of the way, and then once that's done, going to pick off the chosen unit with something else. But yeah, other than that, like I said, this detachment isn't bad, like at all. You can still win with it. The weaknesses stem from a lack of standout psyker units, as opposed to the detachment being bad, which is a good thing and a bad thing. So obviously, the good thing is the detachment just needs a couple of tweaks, and it should be somewhat competitive. But in my opinion, the weakness obviously comes from the fact that we have literally like no good psychic units that are like stand out. Oh my god, this is so good, bring it in every game kind of thing. We need a strong psychic base to do damage. So for example, because of the jack of all trades thing too, it's not specialized. So while Veterans of Long War is specialized to some degree, it is quite generalist. Of you just get full rerolls to hit against a target every turn, and if you destroy it, there's ways to get more. But other than that, it's just Veterans of Long War, you're reliably killing something a turn. This, you're probably not. Creations of Bile are specialised because they specialise our infantry. But if the infantry was bad, then Creations of Bile would probably suck as a result. But then again, there's loads of other factors to it. But it's like Soulforge Warpack, prime example as well, another one. It's dedicated to demon engines and vehicles. So if demon engines and vehicles were bad, by extension, Soulforge Warpack would probably be bad, unless the detachment would like drastically improves it, if that makes sense. But yeah, either way, like if you want to bring this detachment, you're more than willing to, you're more than happy to do so. I think you should. It is an interesting detachment. It's very weird. There's a very specific play style which I think you need to play, but other detachments just do this better, in my opinion. So like the psychic stuff's nice, and potentially doing mortal wounds is nice, but if you want better shooting, go Soulforge Warpack, because you get +1 to wound, and then just bring Vashtor for the extra increased strength, and that applies in an aura, and he's deep strike, and he's probably better than he's literally just a better version of a Demon Prince for that particular army. But yeah. With that said though, thank you for watching. I apologise for the delay in uploading this video. I have been inundated. I'm not sure if you can tell from my voice. I am getting a cold, it seems, so I do apologise. But thank you for watching, and thank you for listening. I appreciate your company. When I do have the time, I will try and stream when I'm feeling a bit better. If you feel like I am worthy of your subscription, then I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the video as well. These videos do take quite a while to make, unfortunately. I've been inundated with work recently, and I literally just have no spare time. And the spare time that I do have, I'm usually spent, doing, well, I won't call it spare time at that point, but I digress. Either way, your support's appreciated. Thank you for watching. And regardless of wherever you are in the world, always remember to praise the dark gods. Cheers, guys.